body hungry. Those are two totally different things. But oftentimes what happens and what we've practiced over the years is to respond to our mind, to respond to the emotion. And we don't actually respond to our physical need for food oftentimes. We look at the clock, we look at those external factors, we pass judgment on ourselves if we're hungry. We look at the clock and say it's 10, we can't eat. But oftentimes when we're emotional, we seek the food and we go eat because we want to soothe that emotion. We're so desperate to soothe that emotion. So what we've done is we've created confusion with ourselves because our body is saying, I'm hungry, and we're telling it no. And our emotions are saying, I need something, and we're feeding them with food. What is going on here? This isn't what we're supposed to do. This is why we have created confusion, and it's why we have a hard time separating our mind from our body and actually connecting with our physical cues. Emotions can be big, emotions can be painful. We haven't often been taught what to do with our emotions. Many of us have been taught to cover them up or to distract from them. And I actually don't agree with that. I agree with diving in and working on being friends with your emotions. We'll get to that later. But for now, what we have to look at is our relationship between our emotions, our relationship to our food, and what control do we actually have? So often food has control over you if you are responding and going to get food because you have an emotion. Emotions happen all day long. We're not hungry all day long. If we eat, oftentimes we feel satisfied and we can move on from that physically. But when we have an emotion that pops up all the time, we can look out the window and feel something. We can read an email and feel something. Emotions are constantly knocking on our door. And if we are emotional eaters, we are looking for food to soothe those emotions. And we may be eating constantly, not because we're hungry, but because we're trying to get rid of those emotions. So what happens is we want connection with something. We don't want to be alone with these uncomfortable feelings, the discomfort. The discomfort drives our behaviors, drives our actions. And what many of us do is we practice this over and over and over again, year after year after year. And we create a response pattern. We create a reactivity pattern. We create a new habit where we go to the cupboard the minute we feel. The minute we feel, we can become very reactive. And if you're like me, I struggled with emotional eating for a long time in my life. I was at the cupboard mindlessly eating all the time, not because I was hungry, but because I was struggling internally with emotion. When we don't know what to do with our emotion and they feel really foreign or really scary to us, we feel like we have to do something. Otherwise, we feel powerless and we feel out of control. So sometimes our control comes in the form of food. We seek out food. It gives us a plan. It gives us something to look at to gain control. And when we have control, we feel better, even if it's for a short amount of time, even if food isn't the thing that really works for you. Food is giving you relief in some way, somehow, some sort of distraction. And that's why you keep going back to it, is because it has worked. Long term, it doesn't work. And you know this logically, but when you're deep in an emotional experience and you desperately want relief, we are not able to connect with our logical self very well. Oftentimes, we do whatever it takes to get rid of the emotional experience that is creating the discomfort. And if food has worked for you, then you're going to continue to lean on food until you decide to handle your emotion and have a different experience and relationship with your emotion. You're going to continue to use your old coping skill, which is food that doesn't work for you. But to dive into your emotions can be really hard and really scary. To become friends with your emotions may be really crazy sounding, right? Like, you may view your emotions as an enemy. I know I did for many years. Emotions were uncomfortable. Emotions didn't make me feel good. So they weren't something that I wanted around. They were an enemy. I didn't want them there, and I wanted to get rid of them as soon as possible. but our emotions are not our enemies. And when we start to see that and we start to work with them instead of against them, then we actually start to get more control. We actually start to change our habits and our response patterns because we become less desperate. When we build trust with our emotions and understand that when we feel something uncomfortable, we're still safe, we're still okay. Those are just old memories. Those are just old things that are coming up, and they're creating an alarm system in our body now. They want us to be prepared. They want us to be safe. They want us to be happy. They want what's best for us, but oftentimes we work against them by avoiding them. They keep knocking on our door. Emotions don't like to be avoided, and they don't like it when you distract yourself from them. They'll grow bigger, they'll get louder, and they really want your attention. And they don't actually want food. They're not hungry. What is hungry is your body. And so start listening to your internal hunger cues. When you're hungry, eat. If you're not hungry, don't eat. But what we want to do is create a better experience and better relationship with our emotions. And as you build trust with your emotions, you start to see that when I feel something, when I'm uncomfortable, we start to build trust with our emotions. And the trust can be really powerful because when you feel an emotion, when you feel that discomfort, it comes up for you. And your old way would be to distract and to run. But the new way would be to talk to it, to let it be there, to actually feel it, to notice and to experience it, and then redirect it because you ultimately have control of your emotions. If we recognize when we feel an emotion that nothing bad is going to happen to us, that we're safe, we're secure in our environment, that we're going to be okay, then we start to build trust in the fact that when it shows up, we don't have to be reactive and it doesn't require a response. So then we no longer have our emotions driving us to the cupboard. We can start to tune into our physical need for food and let that be the thing that drives us to the cupboard. If you found this helpful, grab my free training up in my bio, up in the link, and start looking at your emotional relationship and start looking at your relationship with food on a deeper level with this free training and start to really make some different changes. But it all starts with awareness. If you want more, also you can visit my website at meredithreescoaching.com.